And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to introduce the U.S. State Department's Undersecretary for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs, Mr. Richard Stengel. As Undersecretary, Mr. Stengel leads all Department of State Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs engagement. He oversees the Bureaus of Educational and Cultural Affairs, International Information Programs and Public Affairs, and the Center for Strategic Counterterrorism Communications. Before assuming his position at the Department of State, Richard Stengel was the managing editor of Time magazine. Between 1992 and 1994, Mr. Stengel worked with Nelson Mandela on his autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom, and served as associate producer of the 1996 Oscar-nominated documentary, Mandela. Mr. Stengel received an Emmy Award in 2012 for his work as executive producer on the Times documentary Beyond 9/11, Portraits of Resilience. Please join me in welcoming Undersecretary Stengel.
That's my song. Thank you so much. I just want to mention a couple of folks. Minister Kyrie, who you saw tonight, is a dynamic young leader himself. I believe he's only 3 years older than the cutoff for Yseali, so you guys better get going. Dr. Moshtan, thank you for your wise words about ASEAN youth, which I hope you will all follow. My new friend, Jo Yoon, the ambassador, thank you for mentioning my time at Time magazine, but I'm going to talk about my time with Nelson Mandela a little bit tonight. And Dash and Vanny from Startup Malaysia, you two are models of leadership for everyone here. So, hey, Yseali participants, are you excited? You're going to meet Barack Obama. And you know what? He is very excited to meet you. And that is true. And I'll tell you why. First of all, I want to bring regards from my boss, John Kerry, the Secretary of State. He has a saying, which I hope translates well. It's a colloquial saying. Let's get caught trying. And that's sort of short for let's get caught trying to change the world. And it's a recipe for leadership, because that's what all of you are doing in ways large and small, which is changing the world for the better. Now, my boss's boss is Barack Obama, and he is on a trip to Asia, as you know. In Japan the other day, he mentioned that America has always been and always will be a Pacific nation. He himself has deep roots in this area. Of course, being raised partially in Indonesia, in Hawaii, which is a Pacific nation almost by itself. And he has been the leader of the rebalance to Asia. I know he realizes and understands the importance of ASEAN. That is why he is coming on this trip. To remind people that more than half the people in ASEAN are under the age of 30 is just a truism. And to say that we need to talk to youth, to me, is missing the point. Youth is not the future, youth is the present. You are the present. In fact, when I was 30 years old, I thought I knew everything. And now that I'm almost twice that age, I realize I was right. I did know everything when I was 30. The problem is people my age don't trust you guys when you're 30. So, I wanted to take this opportunity because my boss, Nelson Mandela, would be angry with me if I didn't do it. I worked with Nelson Mandela for a number of years on his autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom, and he's the godfather of one of my sons. And he was, more importantly for tonight, not only a great leader, a world historical leader, but he was a student of leadership. And all of his life, he tried to nourish young leaders. In fact, he had a lovely thing that he did when he would meet very small boys and girls. He would lean down and say hello and he would always ask them the same question, first question, which was, "What did you have for breakfast this morning?" And I always thought that was funny. And he wasn't kidding around, and sometimes they were overawed, small young African boys and girls. But part of that was this idea that leaders, there's nothing too small for a leader. Of course, there's nothing too big. But leaders have to make sure that the smallest things are working in a way that benefits all of us in the long run. Now, he had a belief about leadership, which is that there's one thing that unites all leaders. Anybody want to guess what that is? It's not what you think. It's not being tall and strong like he was, or having a fantastic smile like he did, or having physical courage like he did, but something he said which is even rarer than physical courage, which is moral courage. It's not any of those things. The single prerequisite for leadership is the willingness to lead, is the willingness to take one step forward and say, yes, I'm going to do that, follow me. And that's something that all of you have done already, which is why Yseali is so important. And it's impossible in some ways to compare yourself, any of us, to Nelson Mandela. And there was a Scottish philosopher, Thomas Carlyle, who posed the question, does history make the man, or does the man make history? He believed in the great man theory of history, that people changed history. Nelson Mandela, who changed history, would say that was completely wrong. Because the circumstance make the leader. There's a beautiful old English expression, come at the moment, come at the man. Nelson Mandela would say the only reason he became a great leader was because he had to, because people needed him, and because he was willing to take that first step forward. All of you have taken that step forward already. All of you have done it without the crisis that he faced and the momentous world events that other leaders have made them go forward. But I would say that makes you leaders even more so, because you're leading in a circumstance where nobody is pushing you forward, you're pushing yourselves forward. And what the U.S. feels is so important about Yseali is not collecting leaders, but making sure that you work with each other. There's no particular ideology or idea that we want to promote. What we really want to promote is you all making connections with each other, making connections with each other, which will take you and ASEAN into the future. So I want to commend you for being participants in Yseali. I'm jealous of the town hall that you will be doing with President Obama. I know he wants to talk to you, and so congratulations on participating in this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Under Secretary Stengel.